Check. That sounds good. How do you sound?
Yeah. How's
There we
that?
go. That sounds great. Wow.
This is my talking voice.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Do you want it like close to my lips?
No, that's great. How you doing it right now? You just have such a sultry Irish accent that I'm not used to here. I'm a dumb American. Anytime I hear an accent, I'm like, this guy either loves me or he hates me. There's no extreme for some reason. Like I'm scared because I'm intimidated, or I'm in a great mood because I'm charmed. And with you, I'm charmed. Yeah, you have a Prince Charming-esque aura about you.
I think from our side of the world, our voices tend to be less animated than, like, the American accent is so much more animated.
True.
Whereas we're kind of like more low key generally.
Oh my God, I'm going to be the most animated. I'm probably in the most annoying way animated.
No, not at all.
I'm going to take this off, though. That way we're kind of in the same realm here. But, dude, it's so good to see you.
You too.
Let me get comfortable. We've been talking here for the past 20, 30 minutes anyway. But you told me when I walked up, you're like, it's been 7 years. And I'm like, what?
It's like in the blink of an eye. It's crazy.
So that means it was 2017.
2016. Does that mean it's longer?
So it means it was 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years in September. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, nearly 8 years. That's crazy.
Well, it's interesting because that has weirdly been the trend of my interviews and conversations that I've had recently, are me catching up. Like, I talked to Emily Kokal from Warpaint.
Oh, yeah.
Just about a month ago. Before that, I talked to Andrew Forsman from Fall of Troy. And these are people I've interviewed before, and both of them, it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
And we had a similar experience in where we're just kind of looked at each other and was like, hey, good to see you again. What the fuck? You know, like, has it really been that long?
Yeah.
And the people who watch the show might be annoyed by the fact that my theming has been very almost repetitive at this point, and that I'm bringing up this a lot. I'm bringing up the theme of time passing. And I think a lot of it is because, well, A, the world has changed significantly since the last time we've seen each other, spoken. And B, we are inherently creative people. You make some of my most favorite music ever.
Thanks.
And those things are always intrinsically linked, right? The world changing, the person we are, the art that we make. And it feels natural for me to use this interview as almost a stop, a stop on the subway of your band, of the conversations that we will probably continue to have for hopefully the rest of our lives, And so I want to start off by saying, like, hey, man, it's great to see you. I'm so glad we made it through a global pandemic, and and now there's so much more to talk about with the world, and I don't even know that we need to talk about it. But I think that's where I wanted to start. This was just giving you your props for still being alive, for still creating, for having a new album coming out, for being here in Houston, and it's just generally fantastic to be sitting in front of you right now, man.
Thanks.
Truly, yeah.
But I agree with you. I like the idea of revisiting with other people, and even though like loads of time's passed, it's great to then to catch up and find what each other's been doing, and it's really lovely that we're still doing our thing.
Yeah. It's one thing that actually Emily said in Warpaint. She was like, I have these people and I'll see them, and then 6 years will pass and I'll see them again. And sometimes they're not as obsessed with my band, or, sometimes they're more obsessed or they've found a part of themselves that they didn't have before. And she just talked about how awesome that was, but how also unique it was to the pattern of being a touring musician. And that you do just really only have time to catch up with some of these people, with some of these cities, and you get slivers in these chapters in their lives. So do you have a similar experience? Is it bizarre? I mean, what is that like?
I think in many ways, it's kind of like when I saw you, it was like, oh, how's it going? It's almost like time pauses, especially in our world where it's, you're touring and you're in these fleeting moments where you'll see somebody for a few hours and then you won't see them again for so many years. Sure. And it's lovely to just, for a lot of those relationships, you can just pick up and you know,
oh, here we are at the show again, and, and we just somehow get to ignore, maybe all of the things that have happened in the world and personally. Because god damn, dude, I know I've been through a fuckload. Like since I probably had 8 different relationships since you and I last talked, and have. This podcast has grown, and last time we were just doing audio, and now we've got video. What a big thing. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. It's always a fun kind of thing to touch on when I do these interviews now, where I'm like, "Hey, man, you doing all right? Yeah. Still alive? Still there? So good to see you." So, but anyway, you were here in town in a very, very interesting time in Houston, and United States history. Let's just say that.
Yeah, because we were the tour that we did back in 2016. That was right in the run up to the election.
Yeah,
the 2016 election, and we were in the van driving across America and like listening to the debates like live on air. It was really, for us, it was really surreal to be experiencing that.
What a wild. Are you guys purposefully planning your tours around the most tumultuous times in American history?
Seems
is that
way.
What's happening?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. No, man. I mean, we just had a major storm here, and before that, about a month before that, we had another major storm. So there's actually a good chance we're sitting in this room right now with water actually having flooded in because the city has not recovered. And this venue actually I don't even think had power as it took till a couple days ago.
Yeah, wow.
So the fact that this has worked out is amazing. I know I need this show. Like I know I need this music tonight. I know that the city needs this right now. So thanks for making it happen, man. Thanks for getting here.
No worries.
How was the trip? How was the how long was the flight from Ireland to Houston?
I think it was 8 hours from Dublin to Atlanta, and then 2 hours over to Houston. So about 20 hours total travel for us.
Goodness
so
gracious.
By the time we got in last night, it was a beer, and
so
then
you shouldn't be awake right now.
I feel surprisingly fresh, actually. I think I'm just buzzed to be playing the show.
I love it, dude. You, man, I feel like I have no real point here other than just to say that I'm so happy your band exists. I found this band, God, it's got to be over 10 years now. I mean, when did what's the first record? I'm sorry.
Oh, as in the self-titled one?
Yeah.
That was 2009.
Holy shit, it would have been probably about a year after that. Right. Yeah. And I remember being like, this is someone did it. Like someone made the music in my head, like someone finally did it. And it followed you guys ever since, followed every single album. And it has always meant a lot to me that you've been so reachable. You've been so accessible to this podcast, to fans. This is going to be weird, but why? Like, what is your reason for making yourself accessible? I've seen you interact. Frankly, this entire thing started because when I saw you guys at Fitz, I'm like, hey, man. I remember I seen, God, was it Cain Velasquez fight? I think it was Cain Velasquez fight. And here in town, and then the next day y'all played,
right? And
it was a crazy weekend. And then I knew you were a fan of UFC, and it brought that up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this guy's just like a dude. Like he's just like a guy. Like I'm talking about drums and UFC, and then of course we podcasted. But like, what is your inspiration for making yourself so accessible to your fans? You don't always see that with musicians.
I think it's just down to every band has a different trajectory, and I think ours was so organic. We grew up together. Myself and Rory grew up from like 4 years old, and then we started playing music together. We started learning our instruments at the same time, and then started dreaming about being in a band, playing in little cover bands. And we kind of evolved as musicians, and then we were putting on shows in our local venues, and then. There's never been like a huge jump. It's always been a very linear thing. So I think we're very fortunate in that way. We've always been, there's never been any big moments that we've lost sight of where we came from. So I suppose in terms of being reachable or accessible, I think it's just in our nature to be it's always been about, connecting with fans and
Yeah.
talking to them at the merch stand. That's just part of our, I suppose it's just in the ethos, it's built into the ethos of the band, because that's, where we started from,
Yeah.
and it's the same, today, no matter where we are, it's the same formula.
So how about this? How about considering those interactions? I'm sure you hear, or maybe, but I'm sure there are times where you get feedback, or even if just it's as simple as like, this song did this for me, or this album did this for me. Is there any point that these fan interactions play into the music that you are trying to create? In other words, is it solely coming out of this internal, fire that you as a band has, or are there any parts of you as songwriters that go, is this what this fan or group of fans, or is this what people have not come to expect from us? Is that ever considered?
I don't think so, because I think the way I think maybe from the very earliest times of the band when we started putting music out, and I think we've always, in terms of, especially with our fan base who are so accepting of our crazy ways, we've been able to just be very artistically free and just put it out there, and we've always got really positive stuff back. So I think that's given us the freedom to just do exactly what we want. And there's never been like, there's obviously the odd, 1% of the comments about our music.
There's always going to be that one person,
and you just got to keep that out. But I think the real essence of the band comes from us just in the room, bouncing ideas off each other, and really, it's just what, creating the songs and whatever serves the song the best, in terms of like having the most power and impact and dynamic. We write in that way, and we put it out, and over the years we've been able to do that, and the fans have always, been really into it. So we've never felt like we need to stick to a certain formula.
And so I watch you from afar enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there's common threads that maybe for some fans or whatever will.
But that's happening naturally for you. Yeah.
But
I love that. Okay. Do you? I mean, when you think about creating I feel like the word that I see a lot when we read journalism about you guys is soundscapey, right? Soundscape. And there's a reason for that, right? You guys are very big. It feels big, and it feels like the albums are never meant to be taken as a slice. I always feel like these need to be ingested as a whole, whether that's intentional or not. What is the goal of creating this big soundscapey music, quote unquote? I guess in other words, how do you know that it's big enough? When you are in the writing room, when you're in the fucking room together, all four of you guys, and how do you know it's big enough?
I think it's just, over the years we've got better at communicating, and I mean, there's still lots of creative tension, which is, I think, I think it's vital for any band.
What do you mean by creative tension?
That everyone has once the song starts to come together, everyone has quite strong opinions of how it should be, and there's always a little push and pull,
Sure.
in terms. But I think ultimately, like, I think there's always compromise. There's always going to be parts of songs, or a certain way a song ends up, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have done it exactly like that. But the songs just become they just become themselves,
Yeah.
especially once you record them. They're just there. That's them implanted in time. So the reservations you had as an individual in terms of your input in the song, once you commit it to tape, then it's been born, and it has a life, and you're then it's you don't have what I mean is, I don't think anybody's precious. Once we get them done, it's like, well, we've all agreed that's how it's going to be. You know.
Are you still like a sample pad, or like what do you have going on in your entire kit now? Do you have any other elements like triggers or?
Yeah, I have a Roland drum pad.
Yeah.
So that's there's just some textures and things there that I'll trigger.
Oh my God.
Just as it's never anything really major. It's just like these layers of whatever else, and it tends to be Rory coming up with all these lovely textures, you know, and then they make it to the record, and then we'll grab some of those stems, and then it's always more fun to be hitting them live. So there's an element of like, I have to hit this.
Yeah.
You don't want it just running.
Does that mean do you have a click track running in the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, no, just there's a couple of songs like the last album, Jettison.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a bit more structured, where it was like, because there were so many elements that was when we performed that live. It was very much, as soon as the playback starts, it's like you've got 45 minutes and you're locked to that. There's all the stuff.
Gnarly.
Yeah. So that was a big challenge. I don't know whether I would say challenge, but it was the first time we'd kept ourselves so strict, like within a framework, because we tend to let things breathe and play a bit faster, slower on some things. But with that, it was very much like, here it is. This is we're delivering this piece of music, and there's the orchestration, and there's all these things, and
that's so strange, because I feel like that is directly almost like that's on the other end, as you were saying, like things can slow down and speed up. A lot of times when you are in a band, the version that you're playing live is sometimes slightly different than the live version. One of the main things I've heard from musicians when I've interviewed them is like, man, we played this song 30 times after we recorded it, and that recording is essentially once, twice, maybe 3 times that we've recorded it. It's a snapshot. So although it is the version of the song that the public knows, like to this group of musicians, there's actually a newer version. It's like the one we're playing,
Yeah.
But you're saying that it actually, with some of these newer songs, it doesn't leave that much room for you guys to maybe change the tempo, even if just naturally and accidentally.
Yeah. Well, that previous album, Jettison, that was like a continuous piece of music, and it was 44 minutes long, and it was very much, in order to play it live, it had to be on the playback.
Oh, so the new record, you're not running like that?
No, it was almost the opposite. It was like really really. I mean, I suppose most of it was still click tracked, but there was a lot more. There's a lot more freedom in it, and those songs with the new album that's coming out soon. Yeah, there's a lot more freedom in terms of. I don't think we play any of that on click track at all. So yeah, it just just depends on the album.
Which means that more than likely, if you're anything like me as a drummer, that means that at the end of every night, they're like, "Hey man, that was a little fast." And you're like, "I didn't know. I had no idea."
Yeah,
that's funny, dude.
It's like, I think you have to let. I mean, some songs benefit from keeping them on a click track, and you want it to be just like rigid, and that suits the song. But a lot of the time, you want it to.
It's a punk rock song.
You want it to breathe or whatever. You know? And adrenaline, definitely plays a big part in your perception of how fast or slow something feels.
Yeah,
because maybe a song that you play at the start of the day, if you're in rehearsal, it could feel really fast, and you're like trying to keep up.
And then you go back, and
then you go back, and if you play that what I mean is, if you play a song at the start of the day on click track, it'll feel really quick. It'll feel like you're having to chase the beat. But then if you play it live at night, your adrenaline is up, and it feels really slow if you're playing to that same click track. So you're almost perceiving time differently, depending on how much adrenaline is going through you.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Dude, do you I remember when I was in a band, and I remember we were like basically just trying to rip all of you and your former Sargent House mates off when I was in this whole time I was in a band. I was like, can we just sound more like Taramellos or more like, and so I watched it from far as a side note. But when I was in that band, I used to cross my eyes when I would get super into it. Like I'd be like, into the riff and just like, and I didn't know it. And then they told me, they're like, hey, hey, why are you crossing your eyes? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not crossing my eyes. He's like, yeah, dude, every time we like hit like a bridge or some shit, like where you have to speed up, you cross your eyes.
It's like a concentration thing?
Yeah, I guess. And I was mortified because I'd had 2 years worth of shows with this band and no one told me that I was crossing my eyes. And then I went back and like saw videos and was like, holy shit. What's wrong with all of you?
But then that's your genuine response to it. So you wouldn't want to have found that out because you would have played it differently and you probably wouldn't have been as genuine.
I guess it just made sense as to why we probably didn't get a lot of fans. They were like, they're great, but that drummer, dude, there's something wrong with that guy. You hear a lot, man. You hear a lot that when you create a song and you put it out into the world and that people love it and that I've heard musicians say that it's not theirs anymore, that it becomes the audience's. And I think, that I don't know if that applies to every musician or every creative person, but I think that sentiment at the very least is something that a lot of people who make stuff for the general public to be consumed can relate to. So if you do feel that way, and even not, I am curious as to if you look back on the meanings of these songs to you, what they meant to you when you wrote them. And if the meanings that have been gathered from your fans or maybe even just a meaning that you weren't quite privy to, right, at the time you wrote it, has it changed these songs for you when you play them? I mean, when
you get feedback from people?
Yeah, or if you were to go back and play Set Guitars to Kill or something, where in my mind I'm like, if I was a pro wrestler, this is my walkout song right here. This is my walkout song, and that's what it means to me. Is I'm like, this is energy. This is like I'm arriving into the room and I'm busting out. And so when you hear that, or when it becomes someone else's, what does that do to the meaning of the song to you? Does it change the way that you play it? Does it change the meaning of the writing? Does it have a new set of standards all of a sudden? I don't know.
I think there's definitely, no matter what, or no matter how many people you talk to, or how many viewpoints you get from people about how they feel about the song, I don't think it ever changes your relationship with the song because it kind of came about by weeks or months of that work in the room together, and you kind of, that's really solidified that that the real meaning of the song for us has probably been planted there in the early stages. I don't think for me anyway, maybe the guys would say differently. I don't think the meanings of the songs ever change, but certainly like our set list these days is a kind of a composite of like all the way through the years, all the albums. And it's funny whenever you're playing songs from the first album, like I'm playing drum parts that feel very strange because I've changed as a drummer over those years. So it's like, wow, this is weird. Like if I was writing or recording this song now, I wouldn't, and they morph like that. But it definitely, like a song from the first album feels like it's got that like naive young energy, or like the parts. It's like you're trying to do everything you can. You're trying to get everything in one song because you've got so much to prove. As a young,
sure,
this is my first album. We want to show everything, and then as time goes on, you become more self-assured, and then you're less worried about. You're more selective about what goes into the song, and you're not so like antsy or like.
Of course,
I need to just show everything in one go.
Yeah. You can maybe get a little tighter. You can slow down a little bit. Get a little more. Intentional, if you will, I guess. I mean, how long have you guys been a band now?
Well, it's one of the reasons this tour came around with Caspian was that we were at a festival in Belgium last summer, and we both realized that both bands have been going almost 20 years.
That was what I was thinking.
Yeah. So next year will be our 20th year.
20th year. Yeah. Wow. How do you feel about that?
That's pretty crazy. Yeah. It's like, how can that be?
You're like, no way. Oh shit. Yeah. Well, I mean, so couple of years ago. Well, actually, correct me, but how long have you guys not been a part of the Sargent House group?
When did we? So we changed to Velocity Equal Vision for Jettison, which was 2020.
Okay.
I want to say 2020 or 2021.
I'm trying to pick my words here. That label had such an identity.
Yeah.
You know, it had such an identity. It was one of those things where it was almost like Discord. Like you could be like, oh, they're a Discord band. Oh, they're a Sargent. And you would immediately understand, like, not even necessarily what genre of, maybe in the beginning a little bit more of Sargent House life, but just, you know, the family of music that this was likely going to be a part of. You know, there was Hella, there was Terama. At one point, it was like such a crazy lineup.
Yeah.
Definitely probably a fun time for you guys to be in a band during that hot period of Sargent House. So I know we've talked about it before. I don't know that it takes any dwelling. There are reasons for you guys not being there. But what I would like to know is, were there any direct shifts as a creative entity when there was a new label introduced and new people to deal with? And I don't know if that, I'm sure that doesn't equal out to like, we need you guys to play this kind of music now, or something like that. But, you know, if anything, was there, I mean, even if it just meant that we have to play in a different practice space now, I'm just curious as to the differences that have maybe followed that.
I think just with any entity, you know, one that's like Sargent House was, I think there's a lot of parallels, or, you know, we love being on Sargent House. And it was like the roster there at the beginning when we first joined, like, was, you know, it really was, it was so eclectic, and it was like all these crazy bands, but they, like us, I suppose, evolved over time. Like we as a band, we're always pushing and doing different things, and so was Sargent House. And I think, you know, like we've had loads of different managers, loads of different labels and agents and all that sort of thing, and I think you just move on. I think, you know, I think you're always you're always progressing, and us as a band always look to do that. And it just, by the time we left Sargent House and joined Equal Vision, that it just made total sense, you know. And I think when you know, and yeah, it just worked for us.
Did it give you any sort of sense of rejuvenation or freshness that maybe you didn't know that you needed?
Yeah, I think so, because at that point with Jettison, because it was such a shift away from our usual records, where it was like, we're going to do this and it's going to have an orchestra on it and all this, you know. So it did. I think that was definitely part of that, you know, because it felt like a big departure from previous albums, you know. So
how about now? I mean, how about you guys are beginning this tour in the United States, in Houston, a co-branded tour. I mean, with an album coming, I mean, set to release. You know, you've got, you know, is it 2 songs out for it, or just
three?
Okay,
3, yeah.
So you can see I've done my research.
The third one just dropped.
It just dropped. Okay. That's okay. I was like, I know I've heard 2. I mean, without sounding corny and journalistic and cliche, I'd love to hear about it. Like, tell me what makes you excited about this album without being like, you know, but like, I want to know just what makes you excited about this new record.
Well, it was our lockdown album, like I'm sure a lot of bands have.
Yes.
But like a huge component of it was that during that first lockdown in 2020, like Ireland was pretty strict, I would say. But the one like absolute godsend was that our rehearsal space and what we did, you know, us rehearsing together was classed as a business, or as a place you had to go to, like a communal space that you had to work in.
That's fantastic.
So that was like such a it saved our asses, like,
in
terms of like mental well-being in that time when everything was crazy and, you know, people were losing it. You know, that was it was so great for us to be able to just get in the room and just play and make music. You know, that really saved us. So the album is really special for that reason. It was like all of the crazy stuff that was going on we could just shut the door and we could just
Yeah.
get to
I
work.
mean, it might have
you know?
saved y'all's lives.
Yeah.
Like straight
Yeah.
up, like realistically might have
Yeah.
saved you. Who knows what the timeline looks like if you guys weren't able to do that.
Yeah, because the thing, there's so much suffering with all that, and loads of the suffering came from people have been deprived of what they were normal, what they love doing, or their normal way of life. So having that was so huge for us.
Yeah.
So it's embedded in the album, and you know we're playing the songs now live, and it's great.
And there might have been a time when you were writing them when you weren't even sure that was a possibility.
Yeah, because I mean, it took 2 years for any sort of touring to get back to normal, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel in terms of
No.
what is, you know, and the fact that we're, you know, it's incredible that, I mean, it's been 4 years, but we were able to sit here in a venue, and we've come over from Ireland and we're touring again, and
That's true.
and it's like nothing ever happened. But you know,
That's kind of why I love starting a lot of these interviews out that way, because as you said, it feels like, oh my God, no time passed, but holy shit, did you see all that stuff that happened when the time passed? Like it's almost this, you know, juxtaposition. Like it doesn't even make sense. So wait a minute, written in lockdown?
Written in lockdown,
and then
yeah.
recorded
recorded in September 2022.
So this is a process. You guys have been really working on this then.
Yeah, it's probably by far the most time we've put into songs, and like, because obviously it was like, why rush anything? Why would we want to try and release it at any point, because we don't know when we'd get to tour this. So that allowed the songs to just like, you know, settle in. We'd do some demos, we'd come back to a song, and we would be like, oh, maybe we'll just change it, and we got to just push things around. And this album is the most organic in terms of, there wasn't big deadlines. It's like, oh, we got to be in the studio next week, so we have to sign off on how this song's going to be. And I think there was maybe one booking of a studio that we had, and we actually pushed that down the road because we were like, we're not ready. But in previous years, we would have just been like, we got to go. We've got, you know, the vinyl has to get printed. We're going to be touring X number of months away. So this is the first album which had complete freedom to just settle in, and the songs to just, you know, settle and be become what they
what
be.
does that mean? I mean, I know we can. What does that mean? Like settling in and becoming what they. How does that ultimately play out into the results? Do you think that means less? Does that mean more thing? I mean, how does that in terms of the product? You know, like, I mean, because you can overcook something, right?
Yeah,
You hear that a lot sometimes. It's like, if I sit on this too long, then I'll enter that I forget what Emily Cocal had a name for it, where she's just, you know, going back and like, maybe I'll just chop this up a little bit, or maybe I'll take so how do you what does that actually equal out to?
Well, there were definitely songs that didn't make it onto the album for that reason, which were that they'd been like, we'd done too much to them, and they'd kind of lost their value to us, or they'd kind of gone off the boil. And it's like, it doesn't fit. It's not, you know, we've tried to change that and make and craft it, but it just seems like it's you know, it's becoming too separate from the other songs, and the others, you know, the album kind of just stuck together. All the tunes just felt like they were, you know, they're much more sure of themselves.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of the process, it just, having that time allowed us to let the songs just sort of grow organically, and we were just, they kind of just set the words settling in. I was saying, I suppose they just felt like they were ready to go. And as I said, there was no pressure to like, oh, we need to sign off on this because it needs to go and get mixed and mastered and things like that, you know?
Yeah. I'm thrilled to hear it, man. Your guys' music has it's been a lot to me. It's always been, I'm sure you've heard, you know, it's always been very much the soundtrack of my life when these albums come out. I'm like, well, this is now the thing that I'll be driving to and running to and playing air drums to. Frankly, dude, you're some of my favorite air drum music.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Which air drumming is so much harder than. Can we talk about how hard air drum? Because you don't have you're hitting through. You're not hitting anything.
Have you ever seen those air drumsticks?
Oh,
you
the
can
sticks.
Get?
Have you done it?
I've never tried them, but
I'd like to see you play it because I've heard mixed results.
and there's a piece that attaches to your foot
for the
and you
kick,
can do the kick drum.
and then you can open and close the hi hat too.
And like one tom's here and then the other tom's
Maybe
here.
we
Crazy.
just go out right now to Guitar Center, get a pair of those, and we set you up with that for tonight, and you can just
get it through the PA. And
it's gonna sound terrible, dude. I know you got to do it to it.
Mm-hmm.
You probably got to put your coolest outfit. I know you're a
I
very,
think I'm gonna basically be in this.
You're not like in Ghost or something where you have to put on
Get all my face
paint. But I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to say? I mean, I know it's been a while since we've talked, and maybe even since you've had the opportunity to I don't know, speak to the beginning of the tour. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention or say?
I think all I'd like to say is I think it's so awesome to be sitting here again with you because we're so happy to still be doing what we're doing, and it's great to be meeting people that are still doing their thing, that they've been able to really what's the word, really integrate it into their lives, and they can just take it forward. And
this is what I do now. This is my job, is literally a podcast producer. And I think the last time we spoke, I was still a bartender. And by no means am I making, fantastic money, but I'm very grateful to be able to produce, to talk to people just this year I've talked to, Joe from Idols and Emily from Warpaint and Andrew from Fall of Troy and now you. And these are four of, probably maybe my top 5 favorite band. Throw on Queens of the Stone Age and holy shit, you've got my favorite bands ever. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to continue to do it, to be alive. As we spoke to 10 years, I've been doing this for 10 years. I was 22 when I started. What the fuck was I doing that? And your band 20 years now. What were you doing starting a band? But here you are, killing it. So I appreciate that sentiment, man, because it's mirrored. And if I could just say one more thing, it's just, thank you for continuing to be a creative person. Thank you for being one of my favorite drummers ever. Thrilled to hear this album, and your music has done more for me than you probably will ever know, and that's no bullshit.
That's really lovely to hear.
Yeah, because again, it's been 7 years. I said I've been through 8+ relationships. You know who I put on when that shit went down? You guys. So, nice. Thanks, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tonight. Thanks for sitting with me in this little prison cell,
sultry little den.
Yeah, and we're gonna lock you in here for the rest of the night because this looks like a prison cell. It really does. But cool. Thanks, man. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon.
Cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers.